Welcome to episode 191 of OTD, your daily dose of soccer history by 17 Lost Guy. It is May 10, 1987. We're in Naples, at the Stadio San Paolo. Napoli against Fiorentina. Napoli only need a draw. Andrea Cannavale scores. Roberto Baggio equalizes for Fiorentina. And when the final whistle goes, 1-1 is enough. Napoli are champions of Italy for the first time. The Scudetto, meaning literally the little shield, the badge of the Italian champions, is going south to Naples. And at the center of it all is Diego Armando Maradona, 26 years old, fresh from winning the World Cup with Argentina, and now giving a city that had been mocked, dismissed, and patronized one of the great civic explosions in football history. This is not just Napoli's first title. This is Naples, crowned by Diego. But how did we get here? Well, we start with the city. Naples is not just another football city. It is at the same time noise and theater, poverty, beauty, chaos, religion, humor, superstition, the Vesuvius, the Bay, the Spanish Quarter, and the old streets and the deep wound of being looked down on by the richer north. And Napoli, before Maradona, had history, passion, and pain, but not the championship. The club had come close. They had finished second in Serie A in 68 and 75. They had won the Coppa Italia in 62 and 76. They had known good players, good teams, and great crowds, but no Scudetto. Then, in 1984, they did something that still sounds impossible. They bought Diego Maradona from Barcelona, world record transfer, a club with no league title, taking the most gifted footballer on earth from one of the grand clubs of Europe. Tens of thousands packed to San Paolo just to see him presented. The image almost explains itself. One man on a football pitch, a city looking at him, as if he were not a signing, but an answer. The miracle doesn't happen instantly. Napoli finished 8th in 84-85, and then 3rd in 85-86. That third place matters. It tells you the structure is forming. Corrado Ferlaino is president. Ottavio Bianchi becomes the coach. The team hardens. Claudio Garella in goal. Ciro Ferrara emerging in defense. Giuseppe Bruscolotti still carrying the old Napoli authority. Alessandro Renica. Salvatore Bagni. Fernando De Napoli. Francesco Romano, Bruno Giordano, and Andrea Cannavale. Careca will arrive after this title, turning Maradona, Giordano, and Careca into the famous Magica attack. But in 86-87, the spell is already there, just not yet with his full name. And Maradona arrives into that season as the best player in the world. His rise had been almost 10 years of acceleration. Argentinos Juniors as a teenager, Boca Juniors as local consecration, Barcelona as promise and pain, and Napoli as destiny. Then came Mexico 1986, his World Cup. Against England, within 4 minutes, he gives football its most notorious theft and its most beautiful solo goal, the hand of God, and the goal of the century. In the final, West Germany tried to compress him out of the match, and still he finds the pass for Jorge Burruchaga to win it. Argentina are world champions. Maradona lifts the trophy as captain, following Daniel Passarella from 1978 into Argentine immortality. So when the 86-87 Serie A season begins, this is peak Diego. Not just brilliant, but licensed by history. Napoli start well. They win at Brescia on opening day. They beat Torino 3-1. They go to Roma and win 1-0 with a Maradona goal. And then comes November 9, 1986, Juventus away. This is the symbolic match. Juventus are the North. Juventus are power. Juventus are Michel Platini's old kingdom, though he's near the end. Napoli go to Turin, fall behind to Mikel Laudrup, but then come back. Moreno, Ferrario, Bruno Giordano, Giuseppe Volpacina. Juventus 1, Napoli 3, and Napoli go top. And from that point, the season begins to feel possible. There are setbacks because this is Serie A in the 1980s. Every away game is a trap. Every point has to be earned. Around Christmas, the race is still tight. Fiorentina beat Napoli 3-1 in January and end their long unbeaten start. But Napoli respond. They beat Juventus again at the San Paolo in March. They beat Milan 2-1 in April, with Maradona scoring one of those goals that seems to come from his private geometry. And by May, Napoli have control. And on May 10, against Fiorentina, they can finish the job. It is almost too perfect that Roberto Baggio scores Fiorentina's equalizer. He's still a teenager, still recovering his career after knee problems. And this is his first Serie A goal. One Italian genius is beginning, while the Argentine genius is ruling. But the draw is enough. Napoli are champions. So what did it mean? For Napoli, it meant everything. The first title in the club's history, the first league championship by a mainland southern Italian club, the moment when Naples did not ask permission to belong at the center of Italian football. It took the center. The celebrations became their own mythology. Streets filled, cars stopped, flags appeared everywhere, murals, horns, fireworks. People spoke to the dead as even they needed to know. Outside the cemetery, a banner captured the mood. You don't know what you missed. This is not just celebration, that is civic release. And Napoli weren't finished. They completed the domestic double by beating Atalanta 4-0 on aggregate in the Coppa Italia final. League and Cup. The city had waited 60 years for Scudetto and got a double. Under Maradona, Napoli remained at the top. They won the UEFA Cup in 1989. They won the Serie A again in 1990. They had become, for a few years, one of the great forces in Europe. But then the story darkens. Maradona's life in Naples was never cleanly separable from pressure, fame, addiction, suspicion, exploitation, and love. The scandals accumulated. The surveillance grew. The crowds adored him, but the weight of being a saint in a city that needed miracles was brutal. And then came the 1990 World Cup in Italy. Argentina's semi-final against Italy was played at the San Paolo. Maradona had already challenged Italy's treatment of Naples, saying Neapolitans were asked to be Italian for one night while being insulted the rest of the year. The stadium became a fault line. Diego in our hearts, but Italy in our songs. Italy scored first. Argentina equalized. Then penalties. Maradona scored Argentina's last kick, and Argentina went through. A few days later, in Rome, the final against West Germany became a replay of 1986, but without the redemption. This time, Argentina lost 1-0. And as the Argentine anthem was whistled, the camera found Maradona's fury, and you do not need to read lips perfectly to understand his rage. And then came the fall. In 91, Maradona tested positive for cocaine and was banned for 15 months. He never played for Napoli again. The reign ended almost exactly where it had begun, with Diego as the entire story. Napoli fell away. Eventually, the club's decline became financial collapse, bankruptcy, and rebirth. And yet, the bond survived. When Maradona died in 2020, the San Paolo was renamed the Stadio Diego Armando Maradona. That was not a branding exercise. It was an act of memory. The stadium had already belonged to him in the emotional sense. The city simply made the name official. And in recent years, Napoli have risen again. The 2023 title ended the 33-year wait since Maradona's second Scudetto. And in 2025, Napoli won again. The club is no longer only Diego's ghost. But the original myth remains his. Napoli before Diego had pride. Napoli after Diego had proof. Before we go, 3 things to take away from May 10, 1987. First, Napoli's first Scudetto was not just a football title. It was a southern city defeating the old geography of Italian power. And second, Maradona did not do it alone. Bianchi built a serious team, but Diego made the impossible psychologically impossible. Third, Napoli's rise and fall were tied almost completely to Maradona. First Scudetto, double, UEFA Cup, second Scudetto, World Cup rupture, cocaine ban, disappearance, and then, decades later, permanent memorial. On this day in 1987, Napoli drew 1-1 with Fiorentina, won the first Scudetto in club history, and Naples became Diego Maradona's city forever. That is all for episode 191 of OTD, your daily dose of soccer history by 17 Lost Guy. Tomorrow, we go to May 11, 1976, when Reginald Dwight was elected chairman and director of Watford FC. You may know him better as Elton John. See you tomorrow.